Every country in the world is in debt. Not some countries, not most countries. Every single one. Rich countries, poor countries, powerful countries, peaceful countries. Even the countries that can print their own money still owe money. At first, this sounds completely illogical. If a country can print money whenever it wants, why would it ever need to borrow money from anyone? Why would it owe interest? Why would it depend on lenders at all? That question sounds simple, but it leads directly into how the modern money system actually works. And once you understand this, the global economy starts making a lot more sense. I'm Alex, and this is Money Logic, where we explain how money really works using simple language, everyday examples, and logic that actually connects. No complicated economic terms, no boring lectures, just clarity. Let's start with the biggest misunderstanding. When people hear the word debt, they think of personal debt, credit card bills, loan calls, interest building up, stress, pressure. So when they hear that a country is in debt, they imagine something similar. They imagine the country is failing or about to collapse. But government debt does not work the same way as personal debt. When a country is in debt, it does not mean the country is poor. It does not mean the money is gone. It does not mean citizens should panic. It simply means the government spent more money than it collected during a certain period of time. That's it. Just math. If a person earns 1,000 and spends 1,200, they borrow 200. Governments do the same thing, just on a much larger scale. The difference is not the action, but the purpose. Governments spend money on things that keep society running. Roads, bridges, railways, airports, electricity, water systems, hospitals, schools, universities, police, courts, defense, salaries, pensions, social support. These things are expensive, but they are necessary. As countries grow, people expect more. Better infrastructure, better healthcare, better education, better safety, better opportunities. All of this requires upfront spending, and taxes alone are almost never enough to pay for everything immediately. If governments waited to collect all the money first before building anything, development would slow to a crawl. Imagine waiting decades to build a road, a hospital, or a power plant just because the money isn't fully collected yet. Economies don't work like that. So governments borrow money now, invest it into the economy, and repay it over time. This is very similar to how people take home loans. Most people don't wait 40 years to save enough money before buying a house. They take a loan, move in, live their lives, and slowly pay it back. Now here's something most people don't realize. Countries don't borrow money from one secret group or a hidden organization controlling everything. They borrow from many different sources. They borrow from their own citizens when people buy government bonds. They borrow from banks, pension funds, and insurance companies that want safe long-term investments. They borrow from other countries. They borrow from international institutions. In many cases, a country owes a large portion of its debt to its own people. When a pension fund invests in government bonds, it's lending money to the government on behalf of retirees. When banks buy government debt, they're doing the same thing. So sometimes, a country is technically in debt to itself. This is why debt is not automatically dangerous. What matters is not just the amount of debt, but who the debt is owed to, how much interest is being paid, and how the borrowed money is being used. Borrowing to build productive assets like infrastructure, education, and industry helps an economy grow. Borrowing only to cover daily expenses without growth can slowly become a problem. Now let's talk about a very common question. Why don't governments just spend less? Why not cut expenses and avoid debt completely? On paper, this sounds responsible. In reality, it can be extremely damaging. Governments are not households. When a government suddenly cuts spending hard, the effects spread quickly. Construction projects stop, companies lose contracts, workers lose jobs, businesses earn less, consumer spending falls, tax collection drops even further. This creates a downward spiral. Less spending leads to less income, which leads to even less spending. Debt helps prevent this cycle by keeping money moving through the economy. Think of debt like fuel in a machine. Too much fuel can cause damage, but no fuel at all stops the machine completely. Governments try to balance this, not always perfectly, but that is the goal. Now here is a key idea that most people are never taught. Debt is not always a weakness. Debt is a tool. Strong and stable countries borrow money at very low interest rates. Some can borrow at rates so low that inflation actually reduces the real value of their debt over time. Weaker or unstable countries borrow at much higher rates, making repayment harder. The difference is not the money itself. The difference is trust. If lenders trust your economy, your institutions, and your ability to repay, borrowing becomes cheap and flexible. If they don't trust you, borrowing becomes expensive and comes with strict conditions. This is how financial power works quietly, not through force, but through confidence and credibility. Now, let's talk about something that surprises almost everyone the first time they hear it. Most money in the modern world is created through debt. Money is not created only by printing physical notes. When banks give loans, they create new money digitally. That loan becomes someone's income. That income is spent. That spending becomes someone else's income. This chain continues. This is how money circulates through the economy. When governments borrow, they inject money into the system. Workers get paid. Companies earn revenue. Suppliers receive orders. Economic activity increases. This is why debt is not a side effect of the financial system. Debt is the foundation of the system. Now, this leads to another important question. If debt is so important, why don't countries ever fully pay it off? The answer is simple, but uncomfortable. If every country paid back every loan tomorrow, money would disappear from circulation. Banks would lose assets. Lending would stop. Businesses would shut down. Economies would collapse. So governments don't aim for zero debt. They aim to manage debt. Old loans are replaced with new loans. Debt is rolled forward. As long as the economy grows and trust remains, this cycle continues. It's like a subscription the global economy keeps renewing. Now let's talk about where real power sits in this system. The real power is not just printing money. The real power is controlling interest rates, credit ratings, lending rules, and currency strength. These factors decide which countries grow faster, which struggle, and which are forced to accept strict conditions during difficult times. This power does not need soldiers or headlines. It works quietly through numbers, policies, and agreements. So is this system good or bad? The honest answer is that it's both. Debt has helped build cities, connect nations, create jobs, and lift millions of people out of poverty. At the same time, debt has caused inflation, weakened currencies, and trapped some economies in long cycles of dependence. Debt itself is neutral. Like fire, it depends on how it's used. Controlled fire builds civilization. Uncontrolled fire destroys it. And this is why this topic matters to you personally. Taxes help repay government debt. Inflation quietly reduces the value of your money. Interest rates affect your loans, credit cards, and mortgages. Currency value affects your savings and cost of living. You are part of this system every single day, whether you think about it or not. So why is every country in debt? Because modern money runs on borrowing, because growth requires spending before income arrives, and because power does not come from avoiding debt. Power comes from understanding it and managing it wisely. The goal is not zero debt. The goal is smart, controlled, sustainable debt. That is the logic behind modern money. And this is money logic.